Politics podcast is brought to you as always by patreon.com/JURY. Support the show, and at $3 a week, you get 3 episodes a week. Yeah, I know. This one's always free, but Monday and Friday. A lot of shit happens between Monday and Friday. Sometimes it doesn't make this show. I talk about it on those shows if you want to be in the know. Because if you know, you know. And go head on over there, patreon.com/JURY. And remember that if you want 5 days a week to get my hot takes in your inbox, I have a free political newsletter. Where can you find it? Well, shit, dude. freepoliticalnewsletter.com. That's where. Come on over. It's a fun time. freepoliticalnewsletter.com. 5 links, some hot takes, and mostly gifts. Many of which this week have come from Talladega Nights. Ricky Bobby. Anyway, enough of talking about how we support the show. What do you say we just do the damn thing?
Politics, 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 politics. Yes. Come on, come on, come on. Come on, come on, come on, baby.
Oh, welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome. This is the Politics program for January 11th, 2018. Is this officially the dog days of summer? Are we officially in the dog? When do the dog days of summer really begin? This is my question. Is it after July 4th? Now we're just in this death march into fall. Is it August? August are the dog days of summer? I mean, I don't know. It kind of seems like kind of seems like there's some dogs barking. Maybe we'll get to that in a second. Seems like there's some dogs out. We got a lot to talk about. Trump's fucking around in NATO. All anybody can talk about is the Supreme Court, and I don't think they fucking know how to talk about it. And I don't think that they know how to talk about it because I don't know how to talk about it. So I'm projecting. But I'll explain my projection. And we have being laid out the strategy of the fight to either confirm or delay Brett Kavanaugh. So let's begin with Trump and NATO, because that is the hot goss here as it is happening as we are recording right now. And of course we do have a recency bias on this program. Brussels is, of course, where they are all meeting. U.S. President Donald Trump traded barbs with German Chancellor Angela Merkel in a tense NATO summit Wednesday after he accused Berlin of being captive to Russia and demanded it immediately step up defense spending. If you are unaware, if there's one thing that Donald Trump has identified that he hates the fucking most, it is any kind of international entanglement that he feels isn't benefiting America. And this is kind of, and I think it was in that Hillary book, Shattered, where you had the Greek chorus of Bill Clinton walking behind all these scenes where he was very deliberately walled off. Very deliberately kind of walled off from the campaign because it was felt that he had undue influence in 2008. So 2016, he's like, man, I'm watching this Brexit shit, and I'm kind of feeling like there's a storm coming. I got a feeling in my bones. I'm an old gunfighter. I got a feeling that something just ain't right. There's a coming storm. And goddamn it if he wasn't right. Brexit did go through. Donald Trump beat Hillary Clinton. And part of the underlying idea. Now, I think we can all agree, diehard Trump people, super liberal people, we can all agree on one thing. That the concept of nationalism, that we need to take care of people at home first, is a part of what made Donald Trump president. Now, that's pretty much all you can agree on, because the left will say, well, yes, it was a part, but it wasn't even a dominant part, and all these other things are really to blame. Cue racism. And the right, the Trump faction, will say, yeah, it is. And you need to focus on stuff like that because that's what rallies the base. So when Donald Trump criticizes NAFTA, which has been a boogeyman on the right for a very long time, it's great. When he criticizes the World Trade Organization, it's great. When he gets into trade wars, it's we're going to assume it's great, says the right. Trade war is like Trump in this trade war, another $200 billion on Chinese goods, by the way, yesterday. Trade wars, I kind of feel like, are like when your relatives come to visit. It's really, really cool for a little bit if you maybe impart some wisdom, bring some old heirloom, reconnect with your family. Happy. When your family comes to visit and then they just don't leave, oh, bad. Bad news bears. Bad news bears. And I think you even saw, maybe it was on his Twitter today or yesterday, Donald Trump even give voice to that. To say that, hey, look, this is bad now. I'm going to acknowledge that it's bad. It's not good. Must be bad. But it'll be better later. I swear to God, it'll be better later. And NATO is the same way. NATO is NATO is in the view of the Trump White House, and I think a lot of the people that voted him in, a prime example of the world taking advantage of the United States. Let's bring you back. NATO primarily, of course, was born out of the Cold War, but became a larger, more central idea in the 90s. Great David Halberstam book, War Without Peace. God damn it. Somebody find the David Halberstam book about the late Bush presidency, the Clinton presidency, and war. A World Without Peace, A War Without Peace. Somebody's going to get it for me. David Halberstam, something war, something peace. Effectively, the idea was in the 90s that we were past most major international incidents. And Bill Clinton's idea was it is time for us to stop being the world's police. So we want to make sure that we embolden our European allies to take care of European problems. A war in a time of peace. That's it. Reverend Puck's got it. And so we want to empower organizations like NATO. But primarily, let's leave European shit to the Europeans. Let's leave African shit to African countries. And, because the quickest way to make God laugh is to announce your plans out loud, almost immediately we got Rwanda and we got Kosovo. Two situations where immediately the will of American isolationism when it comes to military involvement was immediately tested. And so it was not the United States that went into Kosovo. It was NATO, which basically just meant giving the United States military blue helmets. Since then, it has been a bugaboo on the right, like everything else that we've talked about, that the United States is putting more into this than the rest of the NATO countries. And what has just come to a head now in a tense standoff between Angela Merkel and Donald Trump is that Donald Trump is accusing Germany of having their cake and eating it too. That they are not putting in enough in terms of the military budget. And that they're making a deal with Russia, which is true, this is happening, to build a giant pipeline so Germany can get cheaper natural gas energy from Russia. Now, I'm not here to say that these things should be done one way or another, because anytime you are dealing with a lot of, everything isn't everything, if that makes sense. This isn't just about NATO. This is about trade. This is about Russia. And again, by the way, when I say that NATO was sprung out of the Cold War, it's there to defend against Russia. This was an organization, a club. This was the No Russia Club. So Donald Trump, who, by the way, in case you haven't noticed, has had his own issues with Russia. Now Donald Trump says, well, Merkel, you're too close. You're too close. He's also asked all the other NATO countries to step up their military spending to 4%. Will that happen? Probably not. Donald Trump is very, very, very effective at one side. And I would say this about his entire career. He's been extraordinarily effective and fearless in doing one side of a two-part strategy. The one side is stir all this shit up, create chaos, give yourself an advantageous negotiation position. Step one, Donald Trump's always been very, very good at that. He was good at that in business. He was good at that. He's so far been fairly good at that in terms of international relations specifically. Now, where we don't know if he's very good at, and things have historically gone poorly for Donald Trump, is the second part, actually making the deal. So, will he be able to create a better NATO? No. Will he be very effective of fucking up NATO? Yeah, probably. Was he very good at stirring the pot with North Korea to the point where they had a meeting? Yes. Will it lead to any kind of real denuclearization? I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. He's really good at part one. He leads with the jab. Can he finish with the uppercut? We will see. Here's the one thing that everybody is talking about. Brett Kavanaugh is your Supreme Court nominee. He is somebody that was viewed by some elements of the right as being a sellout by the Donald Trump presidency, the Donald Trump White House, to the establishment. He is a Bush guy. You know that Donald Trump not a fan of the Bush family. Not only is Brett Kavanaugh from the Bush White House, he's a Karl Rove disciple. And holy shit, does fucking Donald Trump hate Karl Rove. So the far right, I don't even want to say the far right because that makes it sound like it's on this very rigid kind of spectrum where I don't think it is. Alex Joneses of the world are pissed off that Kavanaugh's a sellout by the Trump White House. Not conservative enough. I mean, hell, Alex Jones was running videos and interviews with Roger Stone about how Kavanaugh covered up the Vince Foster death. So there's that. Of course, the blue team fucking hates him. He is a conservative justice, according to the same infographic that everybody ran based on a study that I guess we can all assume is legit. He would be the second most conservative judge on the bench based on his previous rulings. So we'll get to the strategy in a second. What I am assuming many of you are hoping to hear from me is, sure, how should we think about Brett Kavanaugh? And folks, listeners on the podcast, viewers on twitch.tv/JustinRYoung, viewers on youtube.com/JustinRobertYoung, I am here to tell you unequivocally right now, I don't know. And I don't think fucking anybody knows, to be totally honest with you. Look, Supreme Court justices historically are more unpredictable than we make them out to be. Many of the most conservative are also part of their, conservative nature is that they consider themselves strict constitutionalists or strict originalists. That they are there to be law bots. I joke often about journalism that everybody likes to pretend that journalists are robot warrior angels that are descended from truth heaven, and that they descend into a world and they pick up I eat facts, and then they shit out a accurate, unbiased account of what's happened and how ridiculous that is. But Supreme Court justices, some of them, they're like, no. We want to be kind of monks. We want to be these very impartial. I'm going to feel absolutely comfortable separating myself from the law, and I will rule with impartiality. Specifically based on what I believe the Constitution and prior ruling has set up. So that's the idea. Now, there's also the political side of this. And that's where I think the frame of reference that all of us wind up following are the political notes that have always been laid out in these campaigns. Because people go to the fucking polls and vote about the Supreme Court. It is a motivating factor. And so, to that point, when you have presidential elections, you have things like, we need to vote now for this person, whether or not you like them, because Supreme Court seats hang in the balance. Which that is the way station for our Supreme Court justices will rule for things that we like. And there is nothing that moves the fucking needle like abortion. Roe versus Wade. The right to choose. Pro-life. All of that. That gets motherfuckers to the polls. Now, Donald Trump has already confirmed one Supreme Court justice. Was supposed to be Merrick Garland. Merrick Garland got, well, Merrick Garland. Left at the altar. Didn't even get a chance to talk about how good he was going to be. Neil Gorsuch is in the seat that he was to take. But Neil Gorsuch is somebody that has like written book on precedent. He is somebody that believes in precedent. So how would he vote on something that would look to kind of overturn Roe versus Wade? Who knows? How likely is it that we are going to get a case that exactly mirrors some of that precedent? I don't know. How will Brett Kavanaugh rule on it? Considering the fact that Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski, and we're going to get to the strategy shit in a second, that Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski seem much more comfortable with him than, as has been kind of hinted, some of the other people on that short list. I don't know. How does a Justice John Roberts, who took over as Chief Justice when Rehnquist died, how are we supposed to interpret his ruling when now it seems clear that as Chief Justice, he views his role differently than as a justice? Hence the fact that he voted to keep Obamacare. Something that Donald Trump himself viewed as a betrayal. Called him a disaster of a Supreme Court nominee. Possibly yet another way to fuck with the Bushes. The Bushes, by the way, that nurtured and brought Brett Kavanaugh. Here's the one thing I do know. Apparently people are fucking with his name. Trench Wildfire in our chat says, I've never understood why the Chief Justice is appointed and not the most senior justice by default. It seems stupid. I think the idea is you do want cohesion, and that's why you usually wind up picking one of the younger justices because they have less priors. I don't know. Again, my refrain in all of this is, I don't know. This seems to be like a fairly fluid and unpredictable thing to predict. And yet, we are monolithic about it in politics. People keep going after Kavanaugh about his name, Brett. This is from Naral, N-A-R-A-L. I'll be damned if we're going to let 5 men, including some frat boy named Brett, strip us of our hard-won bodily autonomy and reproductive rights. Meanwhile, Stephen Colbert said that Brett sounded like a Ruby Tuesdays waiter. Hey, everybody, I'm Brett. I'll be your Supreme Court justice tonight. Before you sit down, let me clear away these rights for you. In all seriousness, though, there is some strategy here. Now, I don't quite know if it's cohesive from the Democrats, from the liberals, but they're going to really be like a dog with a bone on this.
This rap shit is mine, motherfuckers. A fucking game. Fuck what you heard. It's what you hearing. It's what you hearing.
Like a dog with a bone. There's something with dogs. I don't know. Here is the strategy. If you are Chuck Schumer and the Democrats. Number 1, delay this as long as possible. The closer you get it to the midterms, the more chaotic you're going to make it. What you want to do is start scaring on the fence senators to not vote for Kavanaugh. The longer this goes, the better off it is for the Democrats. So how do you do that? How do you make it politically costly for any of the Republican senators that might be peeled off? Because right now, there is an extraordinarily thin margin for this to happen. Republicans can do it if they stay perfectly tight together. But that's pretty much it. Because John McCain's still out in Arizona. But then you also, as Old Growth Canopy points out, you have the Blue Dogs. You've got Democrats in red states, some of which, like Claire McCaskill, who we're going to talk about a little later, have uphill battles. You've got constituencies that might not love you stretching this out any further. So the way I see it, and it seemed to me to be the no-brainer, is that the best Democratic strategy is to make this about Roe versus Wade, Roe versus Wade, Roe versus Wade. Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins are the most pro-choice of the Republican senators. Abortion issues were part of the reason why Murkowski and Collins did not vote to scrap Obamacare. So this seems to be the way that you continue to bring more and more heat. You continue to make Kavanaugh to be the Voldemort against this staple of political thought and political argument for the past several decades. But when Kavanaugh was named, there was a weird little thing that I saw a little bit too often on my timeline on Twitter that made me scratch my head. People weren't talking about Kavanaugh, the abortion rights killer. They were talking about Kavanaugh's previous stint or previous rulings about presidential power. And then there was this article in Politico. Folks, I'm going to give you this next 5 seconds to please walk to wherever kitchen or supply cabinet that you have. I need you to remove your tinfoil and please fashion it into a fine chapeau. Because we're going to get a little conspiratorial. Why would you keep making, or why would you continue to hammer the idea that Brett Kavanaugh is somebody that has a broad definition of presidential power? Why would you be asking Brett Kavanaugh to recuse himself from any future possible Supreme Court case that would involve the President of the United States? Right now, as I talk to you on July 11th, 2018, it would seem to be a very narrow strategy. Because although by the numbers, most people want Donald Trump to be thoroughly investigated for ties with Russia or corruption in general, it's not a broad enough thing. That shit plays on Mother Jones. That shit plays on Colbert. It plays on MSNBC. It doesn't necessarily play on on Main Street and to a broad audience. That is, unless we got the Mueller findings while this confirmation hearing was going on. All of a sudden, if we got the Mueller findings while this was still happening, then, and it was bad, then all of a sudden, not only would there be a great clamoring that Donald Trump should not be allowed to put in a Supreme Court nominee, but that this Supreme Court nominee would be uniquely unqualified because he has such a broad definition of presidential power. Now, this to me, unless you are to believe my conspiracy theory that there is a deep state for which is passing back and forth information, and there is a strategic timing for Mueller dropping this information, then man, is it a narrow bet. Man, is that a narrow bet. You are betting that Mueller is going to drop his findings in the middle of the most politicized moment he possibly could. In a midterm election, I mean, I guess barring him having this investigation last for 4 years and then dropping it during the presidential election, it'd be dropped during a midterm election in the middle of a Supreme Court nomination. Gold Tiger says, I can't see Mueller doing it. Me either. But certainly seems like there are being tracks laid just in case he does. Tell you what, though, no matter what the Democrats want to do, they better start fucking doing it soon. You better hope that that confirmation hearing is a total shite show, because it looks like Murkowski and Collins are on the side of confirming him. You've even seen Joe Manchin flirt with the idea that maybe this is not a bad idea. And if you're Chuck Schumer, you need everybody needs to be on the side of making this really, 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 really ugly. Because otherwise, it would just be the Democrats rolling over. You know.
Yeah,
Like a dog.
yeah, yeah.
Why do I keep hearing this in my head?
Yo, get it twisted. This rap
No, wait a
shit
minute.
is mine, motherfuckers.
No, it couldn't be.
Fucking
No.
damn.
No, never.
Fuck what you heard.
Never.
It's what you hearing. It's what you
No.
hearing. Listen, it's what you hearing.
She,
Listen.
I mean,
It's what you
twice?
hearing. Listen. X gon' give it to you.
Oh my God, it's Hillary Clinton's music. The Hill Dogs are back. Her, her, her. Her, her, her.
Hard getting busy with it. But I got such a good heart that I make the motherfucker wonder if you get it. Damn right.
No. 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 Could it be? Could it be? Hillary Clinton to appear at Teachers Union Conference where Bernie Sanders and Elizabeth Warren is also speaking. No. 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 Wait a minute. Hillary Clinton stepping up her email fundraising game? No. Could it be? Could it be? Now, I know that things didn't go so well in 2008. And sure, mistakes were made in 2016. But she did win the popular vote. Yeah, she did. She won the popular vote. I mean, is it the craziest idea Is it the craziest idea? If Hillary got the Hill Dogs together one more time? After all, 3 times the charm. Maybe that's how many times you need to smack that glass ceiling to send it shattering down. I could not be more excited for Hillary Clinton to run for president again. Now, this is all scuttlebutt. This is all just kind of rumor and innuendo. But I couldn't be more excited if she did it. Number one, because I'm very curious to see a wounded, I just don't give a fuck Hillary Clinton running for president. I think the Hillary Clinton that doesn't give a shit about likability, the Hillary Clinton that's like, no. You want to know what? Basket of Deplorables was a feature, not a bug. Fuck all y'all. I'm running for president. A Democratic Party that is not under the sway of the Clintons. How other candidates in the Democratic Party treat her when she's not the sacred calf. I mean, I can't, my heart flutters when I think about Hillary running again. This is, I mean, like, this will turn into just the 24/7 Hillary Clinton monitoring network. I can't imagine her doing it. She can't, because that's the other thing. What kind of campaign does she run? Does she run the wounded, I don't give a fuck campaign? Or does she try to run back the, no, but I really am likable? This time you'll think I'm your grandma. Here's what I want to know. TheYoungAmerican@gmail.com. TheYoungAmerican@gmail.com. And I want exclusively the Hill Dogs. Are you excited at the idea of Hillary running one more time, baby? Because I don't think I could be more excited. I think that's the best. That's the best possible world, right? I mean, God, can you imagine Hillary Clinton? Just what I even want to know how the initial polling would be. Nelnar 00 says she won't win the primary. I would think she'd have an uphill battle to do it, but it would require other Democrats really stabbing her in the heart. So only one person ever did it. Barack Obama. That's it. Everyone else has always treated her with kid gloves. Even fucking Bernie treated her with kid gloves compared to how I think she would be treated if she ran again. So imagine that lineup. Hillary, Biden, Bernie, Kamala, Corey, Gillibrand, Elizabeth Warren. I can't even, man. I can't even. I'm so excited I can't even. You want to know what? I'm so pumped. Let's go celebrate, huh? Let's go fucking celebrate! All right. Come with me, ladies and gentlemen. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. We're going to talk about data science the only way we know how to talk about data science, motherfuckers. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the...
Get on the floor if you got that booty.
Dance, 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 dance.
That booty.
This is a Remington research poll for the Iowa Senate seat, taken from July 7th to July 8th. 1,034 likely voters with a 3.2% margin of error. Please. Sorry, Missouri. I screwed that up. Missouri Senate seat. Please welcome first to the stage. She is one of those red state Dems that is up for re-election. Your incumbent with 46% of the vote, Claire
Get on the floor if you got that booty.
But your headliner and challenger, the Republican with 48% of the vote, Joel Howley.
That booty.
That is Howley 48, McCaskill 46, a 2-point spread for the GOP. Let me just go ahead and read you all the last few polls from Howley and McCaskill. It has been a tight race with McCaskill +2, McCaskill +1, a tie, McCaskill +4, and now Howley +2. That's going to be an interesting one to watch. An interesting race to watch. Specifically, if there is any hope of our blue team Wave Watch in the Senate, you know, where they confirm Supreme Court justices, then you must protect this house. You have to defend your own turf before you start converting shit on your side, or you got to convert even more shit on your side, which is very, very hard. Let's go ahead and get into but your emails. TheYoungAmerican@gmail.com is where you need to go. Again, TheYoungAmerican@gmail.com. Sean writes, will the news ever stop reporting that Collins or Murkowski may break with their party for any issue? Time and time again, the mainstream news says that the two senators may swing, and then they never do. Liberals, for some reason, keep putting their faith in these two, and it never pays off. Senator Paul falls into the same boat. He hops into a lifeboat with a 2-foot tether, paddles away for 3 seconds, and then gets back on the GOP yacht. The reason, Sean, that people talk about Collins and Murkowski specifically is because of the Obamacare vote. They scuttled. I mean, like, McCain had the dramatic last-second thumbs down, but it was Collins and Murkowski that set the stage for that. So they did break in a very significant moment. They broke against the GOP, against that Obamacare bill. So that is where I think you're getting that, and the idea that they're the most likely. Whether or not they ever do, they're always the most likely. So when you talk about the mainstream media putting their faith in something, I think it's like, look, if you want to talk about this realistically, then they're the most likely. That's just that. You have to talk about them. Who else are you going to talk about? As for Rand Paul, the calculus on Rand Paul is different. Rand Paul is a senator who wants to make sure that he gets his way. So he's going to be a big pouty butt face about it until he gets as much as he can influence onto whatever's happening. Be they a Senate bill, be it a Supreme Court justice. He wants to make sure he gets his pound of flesh out of anything, and then he will join. So you're right about that, but I think that that's part of the strategy. Now, here's something that I did want to talk about a little bit more. Jade wrote in reference to one of our emails this week. Donald Trump went out, I think it was to one of the Dakotas or Montana, and had made a comment about how he hopes Elizabeth Warren makes it through the Democratic primaries, and how he would love to debate Elizabeth Warren, because what he would do, and he explained it in detail, is he would have a DNA test, one of them Ancestry.com spit in a tube and mail it test, and he would throw it, he said very gently, because we live in a Me Too world, which is literally just meant to, he might as well have just yelled, "Trigger the libs!" But that he would donate to charity or some shit if Elizabeth Warren could prove that she were Native American. I think he said Indian. I'm going to say Native American. So I pointed out in the newsletter that, look, you can think what Donald Trump said was gross. I personally think it's a little gross. It's me. But Elizabeth Warren has a Pocahontas problem. I.e., when the lights get hotter on her, right now, Elizabeth Warren can pretty much just exist as a hero in her own sphere. MSNBC, progressive outlets, she's always going to be a hero there. Now, she's like famous enough that she's reviled on the right, but that's fine. That's usually a plus. But when that spotlight, that presidential spotlight hits you hard, well, that's where you need to start reframing issues that you may or may not want to talk about. Even Donald Trump, the man who never fucking explains anything, has to have takes on things. Even he had to talk about locker room talk, right? So right now, Elizabeth Warren has kind of hid behind the idea that the way that her opponents have talked about this issue is racist and fucked up. And that'll fly for your hardcores, right? I do not think that it will fly for other voters. IMO. I just don't. I think when you got Trevor Noah talking about how, hey, this thing is kind of fucked up, then you have something that you need to reframe for the larger audience. So Jade wrote in. I wrote that in the newsletter. Jade wrote in and said this. I can't believe you do not think of the glaringly obvious offense for Liz, the show me yours and I'll show you mine. Tit for tat. Quid pro quo, Clarice. When Warren is asked to take that genetic test, agree to it, and then tell Donald he will release to release his taxes first, make it a rallying cry, taxes for genes. Love the show. Keep up the good work. Thank you very much, Jade. I do think that part of it is we kind of live in an applaud the apology culture. And once you've taken the fun out of the hypocrisy chasing, it is kind of better to just get it out there. I would think that the best way that Elizabeth Warren can handle this is to say, hey, look, this has been something that's been talked about my entire career. I've consistently pushed back on it because I have been horrified by the tone used by the vile, evil, soulless Republicans. However, it is something that I have consistently had to reckon with myself. Family is complicated. And as many people can relate to, sometimes everything that you're told isn't true. Now, am I guilty of taking a little bit too long to look into some of this? Probably. But I'm a successful woman, and I've been very, very busy marching forward. Are some of the things that I've written in the past things that I now regret? Yeah, they are. So that's what I have to say on this issue. I would like to move forward. At the very least, you can say that I took responsibility. That's leadership. What you do is not vote for me. I can understand making it I'll show you yours, or sorry, I'll show you mine, you show me yours kind of thing. But, and also the other side of this argument is the taxes thing. It's just say, well, everybody got fucking upset about the taxes, and then ultimately nobody gave a fuck. He said no. That was it. In general, I've always assumed that real politics is correcting for bumps in the road. And that the reason, the inefficiency that Donald Trump exploited is that everybody else was risk averse, so all he did was take risks and didn't give a fuck about it. He dared all these other candidates that had manicured every little element of their lives to fit in, to come into the jungle with him and survive, and none of them could. So maybe that's Elizabeth Warren. But I don't know. Doesn't seem like Elizabeth Warren to me. Michael writes in regards to the protests of the past against the WTO, I never understood them or their motivations. I believe they protested the WTO and the G7 mainly as anti-establishment. It seemed that they were mainly aging old line hippies, along with some new recruits. I do not believe many of them would have voted for Trump, but I could be wrong. Maybe some of them saw Trump as the anti-establishment maverick. I am for free, open, fair trade with no protectionism tariffs. I'm not certain if the WTO was in favor of free trade, so I cannot comment on it. It was definitely an entrenched bureaucracy, which is why the anti-establishment types protested it. Now, I made that joke last week as Donald Trump criticized the WTO. If I were to guess about that through line, I think that it was the WTO protest people were kind of the Occupy people. They became the Occupy people. They became the Bernie voters. All that. I just thought it was really, really, really funny that, you know, in my youth, I'm watching people smash windows and get tear gassed and rubber pellets to the face because they hate the WTO. And now we have a president that's like, fuck the WTO. And I don't believe that many people made exactly that journey. If you want to write into the show, it is theyoungamerican@gmail.com. Free political newsletter. Just go to the freepoliticalnewsletter.com. That's all you need to go to, freepoliticalnewsletter.com. Music, as always, is provided by Valesco and Trop Killers. You can follow me at Justin R. Young everywhere. If you want to support this show, you can go to patreon.com/JURY. If you want to support this show for free and you have Amazon Prime, go ahead on over to twitch.tv/Justin R. Young. subscribe with Twitch Prime. If you don't have a Twitch account, you have to create one. And past that, you have free money that Amazon gives you as a Prime member to give to me. And I'm calling dibs. Twitch.tv/Justin R. Young. Or just Google Twitch Prime if you have no idea what the fuck to do. You can always download archived episodes of this show at bonerwars.com. Ladies and gentlemen, some shows talk about politics. Others talk about politics. Still more, they talk about politics. But this right here, it's the only show that talks about, oh, motherfucking three. See y'all next week.
Diamond Club hopes you have enjoyed this program.